Hello, I'm Michael for GameWatcher.com and welcome to our Space Hulk Deathwing review. The time has come to don our Terminator armor and head on to the Space Hulk Elethros to kill those pesky Tyranid gene stealers. The game was developed by Strumon Studios and published by Focus Home Interactive and was based on the Game Workshop's Warhammer 40,000 universe, but primarily based on the spin-off board game Space Hulk. Now, for me, a first-person shooter Space Hulk sounds perfect in theory, and I was looking forward to this for quite some time. The idea of myself and a group of friends heading through the bowels of ships, fending off hordes and hordes of gene stealers, is something of a dream for any Warhammer 40k fan. But does this translate into a good game? Well, first let's start with the main gameplay. So you have a single player mode and a multiplayer mode, both of which share the same content. So there are 9 chapters to go through, each with its own level, and the levels are absolutely massive. And the greatest point of this game is the fact that the level design is so good. Levels are large, they are detailed, they have some really fantastic backdrops, and they look fantastic. The problem is the fact that the game is a technical mess, which affects every single part of this game, regardless of if you're on single player or if you are in the multiplayer. Now, the gunplay for the most part in this FPS is pretty damn solid. Some of the weapons do need a little bit of balancing and some feedback issues are there. For example, with the bolter, you don't really have that patented bolter feedback in terms of both audio visual and of course in recoil in terms. Some weapons, particularly range weapons, lack accuracy. Some melee weapons lack a certain feedback, so it doesn't feel like you're hitting anything. But then on the other side, it's a little bit of a mixed bag because some weapons are really bad, and then there are other weapons like the Thunder Hammer which feel fantastic and really enjoy turning enemies into mushy soup with those things. So in terms of the quality of the gunplay, there is certainly potential there, but it still needs a little bit of work, a little bit of polish just to iron out the bugs and problems. But for the most part, it's fairly solid and it is representative of a Space Hulk game. The problem, like I've said, however, is the technical state of the game. Regardless of if you are in single player or multiplayer, you will no doubt experience multiple issues, from frequent frame rate drops, and you're talking down to as low as 15 frames per second, even though there's no real reason for it other than poor optimization. And it doesn't matter if you put the settings on low, medium or high, you're going to experience frequent frame rate drops. There are multiple bugs in the game that have even made it through from the beta test. There is an overall lack of polish in the product. There are even multiple crashes, and overall the technical state of the game is just abysmal, and it affects every part of this game throughout, and it's something that can't really be overlooked at this current stage. Can it be fixed? Well, of course it can be fixed. The developers can work and they can patch it out, and what's most important for me, for people to take away from Space Hulk Deathwing, is the fact that underneath all these issues, the core gameplay and the core concept of the game is fun, it's solid. It's very in the style of Left 4 Dead and Vermintide, in the sense that you are a small group of Terminators and you're facing down hordes and hordes and waves of enemies while you're trying to complete these objectives throughout these massive levels. And it can be tense. The game can be very atmospheric. There are some great sound effects in there. There's some great voice acting in there. There's some great gameplay in there. But it's all ruined by the fact that the game is just such a technical mess. And it's a real shame that yet another Warhammer 40,000 game has been held back due to poor execution and technical issues. While it can still be saved in the future, at this current time, what it does right does not outweigh what it does wrong. And the good parts of the game, regardless of how much you enjoy them, are currently always going to be plagued by the negatives and the technical performance of the game, which is a real shame. Because if you hadn't had these technical issues, if the performance had been solid throughout, if you would have maintained a 60 frames per second game, and there hadn't been those crashes, there hadn't been those game-breaking bugs in there, what you will have found is something that had great level design, great environments, solid core gameplay, a co-op mode that would have been a ton of fun, and it's something that people would have really enjoyed and really responded to. But just like the multiplayer itself, while the core gameplay is good, getting it to work half the time is the problem. You have a peer-to-peer system, which is inherently going to cause problems as is, especially when you're joining, 3 to 4 other players at any one time. On top of that, with the baseline performance issues of the game, with the various bugs, getting through a level with 4 people without any disconnections, without any crashes, without any bugs, is nigh on impossible in its current state. And it's easy to see the potential and the fun factor of the underlying core gameplay, but the sheer amount of technical problems in this game just cannot be overlooked, and for that reason it is certainly not worth picking up in its current form. When it's been patched and a lot of the technical issues have been ironed out, it certainly will be worth a look for fans of Left 4 Dead, fans of Vermintide, and fans of 40k in general. But until that time, if that time ever comes, it will be one that will frustrate you more than it will fulfill you. Now, thanks for watching our review. Head on over to GameWatcher.com for more, and we'll see you next time.